What is going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here. It's Dean 7904 if you want to get all technical. I mean, it's 5:30 on the dot on the East Coast. I got a haircut. 2:30 on the West Coast, 4:30 Tennessee time. Of course, images time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It's called Grinderslive. Joining me today, if you would have listened to the pre-show conversation, you'd know he's got a case of the Mondays. It's Grant Neefer. What's going on, Grant?
How do I have a case of the Mondays?
Because you had some terrible takes, and I don't want to throw the people.
Sorry, I'm a genius in the voice of our generation.
Not my generation.
Well, yeah, you're like 75 years old.
Does it show
Have
now?
fun with that AARP.
Yeah, well, hey, you know what I mean? That's Social Security represent. What's up, chat? Hey, YouTube, how you doing? Hopefully the people on YouTube have not had a case of the Mondays. Feel free to like and subscribe and turn on notifications and all that good stuff. We have a lot of stuff to get into, Grant. Unfortunately, no time for pleasantries, no time to dig into your pre-show hot takes. But 10 games going down this evening. 20 basketball teams taking the court. A bunch of them on a back-to-back for what it's worth. Nobody in the front end. A lot of teams in the back end. We'll kind of dig in that as we're kind of going along. Injury news did just break, as always, as we went on air. Joel Embiid is not playing basketball this evening. Other players that will not be partaking in the basketball. Wendell Carter Jr. is still out. We don't know about Toronto just yet, but this could be big. Obviously, Pascal Siakam's got a knee. He's questionable. Kyle Lowry's got a toe. He's got 10, but one's not feeling very good. Oh, is that official?
Yeah, it just came in.
Oh, and I see Pascal. He's out. So Pascal out,
yeah.
Lowry in. Oh, all right. Half measures. Pascal out, Lowry in. Kemba played yesterday, so he can't play today. He's out. Jason Tatum expect him back tonight. He hasn't played in a while from the COVID protocols. MCW is still out. I guess that's whatever, sure. James Ennis available to play with his quad, but he will be on a minutes restriction. Aaron Gordon, he's got both a hip and a back despite that. And if you're old enough, you know a joke, you know a song about hips and backs, but we can't stop for the kids. Shout out Kia. So he's going to play. Aaron Gordon's got a hip and a back. Despite that, he will be playing this evening. Larry Nance out with a wrist. D'Angelo Russell, last I saw, he's doubtful with his quad. Al Horford's still out for personal reasons. Derrick Rose, he's got an old body, so he's not playing basketball this evening. Oh, George Hill's got a thumb, so he can't play. And Bobby Covington is out with a head. He's got a concussion. So, yeah, man, it's a lot going down and probably more coming. 10 games. Can you whittle it down? What do you, the person you told me you're honing in on pre-show, I was like, that's the first guy you want to talk about? But okay. I mean, what do we think as far as this slate? Obviously, you could say, to borrow a phrase, the slate's been kind of sort of somewhat flipped on its head with Embiid being out. Dwight Howard's all of a sudden going to be super popular. I presume he draws the start. Pretty solid fantasy point better player, and he's projected to be, well, he's what, 4K, basically, depending on where you're shopping. So he's going to be super chalky, but it's a 10-gamer. General thoughts, the 30,000-foot view as far as tonight's slate. What say you, Grant?
I am going to be stacking up that Philly game a ton. I'm using 100% Jeremy Grant.
Now, is this one of those things where you're making one lineup and you're saying you're using 100% Jeremy Grant? You're making more than one lineup and you're still making the bold, because you've done it before. You're making 3 lineups. And you're like, he's going to be in 2/3 of my lineups.
I mean,
it's actually correct.
I'm doing 5 lineups on DK, 5 lineups on FanDuel, probably 40 over on Super Draft. You can't blame over on Super Draft, but I'll have him in 100% of my FanDuel and DraftKings lineups. I have the over on his points of 21.5. I have him points betting on points at 22.5. I have him points times rebounds on the over of 144 on points bet. And I have him over 30 total points, rebounds, and assists. So, yes, I have a lot of money on him tonight.
I'm pulling up the, I'm pulling up the court IQ here as far as running a query. As far as Detroit, again, no Rose. Blake Griffin expected back for what it's worth, but Jeremy Grant this season, he's been excellent. I don't know if he's something in one basketball game, so I guess he's not, but he's been great. It's from a fantasy perspective, and that's all we care about. This season, 1.12 fantasy points per minute from a FanDuel perspective, 1.13 from a DK perspective. Embiid, a really solid defensive player that's going to weaken that Philadelphia defense overall. So, yeah, I like Grant. That's a Neefer too. By the way, is it hot? Is it hot where you're at? What's going on? Is it sun's out, guns out, man?
No, it's 30 degrees here. I just have not left my house, and it's very air conditioned. Plus, look at me. Just look at this beauty right here.
Can you tell me which way is the which way is the gun show? Do you know by chance?
That way.
Look at you, man. Thanks for dressing up. This is not even casual Friday. But yeah, Jeremy Grant, a really interesting spot to start, and like she's perfectly fine. But his asking price it's market price. He's basically kind of priced where he sort of should be.
How is he market priced?
Well, because you ever like show up and the lobster is like overpriced or it's underpriced, and you eat the lobster. You're aware how this works.
How many points would you expect out of a 7.8K guy on a 10-game slate?
When you say expect, you say how many did I want in order to roster him?
Yes.
Now I'm going to give you the answer is like it depends. It depends on how much value the slate offers, and I think the slate is offering a decent amount of value. So if he's giving you that 5x return, I'm not getting super excited. I expect he's going to return me somewhere around. Well, you want FanDuel or you want DK? What do you want?
DK.
All right, let's go. I'm pulling it up right now. I'm going to use the lineup HQ, and I'm going to tell you what Rotogrinders stinks. And if you want to take it up with them, by all means, feel free. He is a small forward or power forward on DK. I think he's both.
Both.
Okay. Scroll. So 40. Yeah, 40.67, 36 minutes is our projection as well too. And that I was going to say right around 40. So it went both the showcase showdowns. I think he's perfectly fine, but I'm not like enthused. I'm not ecstatic. Like, oh my God, I get the roster Jeremy Grant tonight. He's okay. Fine.
So he's only coming in at 16%. That might change. I don't know what Embiid will have anything to do with it, but Embiid, if anything, gives him a bit of an upgrade because there's less of a chance to blow out, and he can easily do better in that scenario. Over the last 2 games, he's shot absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. 3 for 19 from the field in the last game, still ended up with 32 points. 4 for 15 from the field, still ended up with 39.5 points over the last 2 games. That is ridiculous. During the season, how many games do you think he's had less than 21 points?
Well, that's a pretty interesting number. 21. I would say 0, maybe 1.
I'm talking real life points.
Oh, points in the bucket. That's a different conversation. 4 times. I don't know.
Last game and the first game of the season. That's it.
It's twice.
Yeah. So that is correct. But yeah, like he shot terribly from the field. He's still averaging 19 shots a game. He has a 50% or effective field goal percentage. His game's going to be close. Embiid's not in there, so that gives an upgrade to him even more. He can get all categories. He can end up with a double-double. He can end up with 30 points. RG has his 10% before Embiid was ruled out, his 10% ceiling, whatever. As
spot. Huh? Smash percentage?
His smash percentage is 30. His ceiling, which I think is 10% or 20%, like median outcome, is 60. Like, he's not going to be heavily enough owned. He has a massive ceiling. Like, he's going to shoot the ball 20 plus times in the spot here. He is the majority of their offense. Without Derrick Rose in there, then that adds even more. Like, I know they don't play a ton of minutes together, but like with Hayes and Rose out there, like he's going to be taking a bunch of shots. I absolutely love him. I am locking him in. He's my favorite play of the day.
Wow. Hey man, that's I don't think he's bad, for the record. Like I'm just giving you a hard time, just having fun with it.
That's what you said before the show, is that you think he's bad, and then I tell you all this information. Like,
I added content. I was doing it to get a reaction, and I sparked. This is how we wanted to keep it organic on the show, Grant. Now you're telling them how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. So where was other things? We were way off the board, and we were talking exclusively on basketball. We shouldn't delve in the world of conversations we got in the pre-show. That's for premium. Hey, if you guys want to get RG premium, and I don't know, maybe Devin can hook that up as far as the pre-show conversation. Probably not. Probably a terrible idea. You can get $10 off the first month. You can get it a la carte, just basketball or all the sports with the exception of NASCAR as well. $10 off. Either way, a link will be dropping in chat momentarily. Hey, while we're at it, let's just knock these out as well too. You talk about playing on FanDuel tonight. The single entry series is going down. How that works? It's running for 6 different weeks. Top 4 scores out of each week counts for total. Basically, Rotogrinders sponsors this. You're entering these contests as is. You want to play as many single entry contests as possible, and it's added value. And tonight it's just a $3 contest, a $3 block, which I happen to join. Next week or weeks down the road, it's going to be 25, 50, 100. That's how it goes. And there will be a tournament at the end of the season, all sort of a added value. It doesn't cost you anything else. You're playing anyway. So that's like your first $3 on FanDuel, if you're playing on FanDuel Saving, should be played in the single entry series. Monkey Knife Fight, shout out to them. Apparently they got bought up. We really weren't told to talk about that, but I saw that somewhere. I think one of the companies skipped off like 100 mil. Does that sound about right?
Bally's, I think.
There you go.
I think it was 90 mil.
Oh, 90 mil. I round up. What's 10 mil? So player props over, under. That's basically how we do that. Of course, we have a promo code as well for Monkey Knife Fight, $50. 100% deposit bonus up to $50. Use the promo code Grinders, GRINDERS. Again, another link will be dropped in chat. What else is being dropped in chat is your questions. If you guys want to talk, as far as the slate tonight. It's a 10 gamer. There's a lot of guys we're not going to get to. It's just that's how it's going to work out. We're probably going to think they're perfectly fine anyway. Feel free to ask us about them. Devin, our fabulous multitasking producer, is going to be all over it, compiling your questions, assuming they're good questions. He'll ask us the last 15 minutes or so of the show before he step aside and get out of here. And get the people started, Grant. I know you picked some winners as far as Monkey Knife Fight. Who do you like? I think you had was it Simmons and Jeremy Grant? Is that correct?
Yeah, it was Simmons on over 8.5 rebounds, which I think the current juice on it over on most gambling sites is minus 130, and Grant on the over of 21.5 points. So pretty much what I'm betting on actual legal sports books too. But it has a nice correlation, assuming the game stays close. They don't have it up anymore because that game went down. It'll be back up with Grant having a slightly higher points total, probably paired with Tobias Harris, which I think you should take the over on. He averages 26 points per 36 without Embiid on the floor. They'll probably put in at 22, which is currently what most sites have it at. So yeah. So whatever the over with Grant in there is, in it, just hit it hard.
We kicked Embiid off the court. Shake Milton gets the biggest bump as far as usage. That doesn't necessarily mean I like Shake, but 3.1% increase in usage as far as Toby Harris. Per 36, he gains more than 6 DraftKings points with Embiid off the court as well too. He jumps all the way up to a 1.24 fantasy point minute player. I did think it was interesting. Ben Simmons at 1.13 DK fantasy points, which actually is a downgrade. The sample is 144 minutes with Embiid off the court. I was trying to figure out why that was. His rebounding rate goes up. His steals have gone down. That's kind of sort of goofy. Minus 1.76 fantasy points per 36. So his per minute barely takes a hit. And I wouldn't freak out about it. Of course, you could play Simmons, but just worth noting that he has not seen a big fantasy point minute bump with Embiid off the court, at least so far this season. Do you care about that? Is that a big enough sample for you?
No, I don't. Like, literally just look back to any other year. It's not like this team's that drastically different. I mean, they picked up Seth Curry, they got Riv Horford, they got Danny Green. So realistically, Ben Simmons probably should average more assists per game, probably should average more points a game. He'll be driving to the bucket, considering how many guys can sit on the outside. That offense is a little bit less focused on the interior whenever Embiid is out. So like it should do nothing but increase his usage, increase his rebounds, and increase his assists. I mean, he's pretty close to averaging a triple double per 36 with Embiid off the court. 10.5 rebounds, 9.7 assists, and 10.1 or 10.9 points. So I expect those things to go up. I'm going to use a decent amount of Simmons. I'm stacking up the game all over the place.
Again, SBK joining us from the projections teams in a couple minutes. Tell him, I'm curious where his mind is at. And, my mind is all thrown off because I love punting the first, slate, the first 7 o'clock games if I can make that work. And unfortunately, now I'm going to have to think more about it because Toronto is the 7 o'clock slate and we have no Pascal. So that kind of opens some things up there for the Toronto side. And Lowry is in, but also Philadelphia with Embiid out. Howard becomes super interesting. And, I don't know if you played last night or not, Grant, but like we saw it last night where people are locking in Orlando value and some of that Orlando value is really, really thin. The James Ennis's of the world. And sometimes they get there and sometimes they don't. And then all of a sudden Atlanta says, Capella, you're not playing. And, Young, you're not playing either. And now you're locked in on some guys and you can't pivot to some of the cheap stuff. So, whenever there's tiebreakers, you always yield later. But now I feel like I'm going to have to lock in some early guys. Again, my lineups are not made yet because I knew news was going to scramble things up and things like that. But what are your general thoughts as far as that strategy and how are you implementing it this evening in particular? Because I feel like it's blown up my face and I'm probably going to have to play Dwight Howard and lock him in at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, that's pretty much my plan. I know that you like waiting on later on the day, and I do too. It's just too good of a spot here for pretty much the entire Philly versus Detroit game. I'm trying to check what the line was at like plus 240 for Detroit, and now it's all the way down to plus 163, a 4.5 point spread. I already hit that pretty hard at plus 180, but like there's too many good spots in the Philly game and the Toronto game. I think right now, just you can take a few of the Toronto pieces, and I love Boucher. I like Lowry. I really like OG. So there's too many good spots at the beginning, and yes, there's some decent spots in the back end. Like I really like Lillard. I really like Jokic. I really like Luka, but there's too many good spots at the beginning, and you can lock in some of the value plays that are good and hope that not a ton of value opens up later on. You're going to be able to pivot around to any one of the big stars if you have to make a 2v2 swap. So yeah, I know I like pivoting later on in the games, but just doesn't work out that great.
Yeah, we'll talk about Lillard later because he seems like an absolutely phenomenal play tonight. All the usage in the world with no McCollum. We know that Covington's out. He's not a big usage guy. I think it's actually going to make Melo potentially, possibly interesting. I think he's the most likely guy to jump in the starting lineup, but and I love Cantor as well too. I wish that price a little bit cheaper, but Roby is just an undersized rookie center. This feels like a spot where Cantor can put up like a 15-15. But again, especially if you're locking in Howard, especially if you're playing on a site like FanDuel, it's really, really hard to justify overspending, I guess you can say, or moving off a guy like Howard, or even a guy like Miles Plumlee, who's super, super cheap on FanDuel. If he can just stay out of foul trouble, he's pretty interesting. But he's been really, really handsy of late. But I will say he does get a bit of a bump, at least in my head, without Embiid, because Embiid is going to draw more fouls than Howard. I'm hearing some noises in the background. I think maybe is SBK with us? Oh, I'm just hearing noises. That's just in my head.
You dummy.
Were you not hearing things? Is that just me? I guess it was just me.
I think it's just you, sir.
I'm hitting the refresh. Oh, well, there you go. False alarm. And now by the way, I have a green screen behind me. I don't know if you guys, there you go. Have at it. It's good times. Technology. It's pretty impressive. SBK, what's going on, dude? How are things in the lineup HQ world? How are things in the projection world? And I imagine you just finished scrambling off of Philadelphia with the Embiid news, and as well as far as Toronto. Let's talk about Philly first. How excited are we about Dwight Howard this evening?
Well, I mean, the projections are pretty excited about him. I believe we have him at 28 minutes right now, if I remember correctly, at about a fantasy point per minute. 28 is on DraftKings, a shade under 30 fantasy points. He's gotten run with Embiid off the floor, or with Embiid, missing games to this point in the year. So 4.2K, kind of a hard guy to get away from. Outside of that, though, Shake Milton's another one that I don't think many people are going to be talking about. That's kind of interesting. He's actually second on the team in minutes with Embiid off the floor this year, 29% usage rate, 1.12 fantasy points per minute. He's been pretty awesome when he's been out there. He didn't have a great game against Detroit on Saturday, but this could be a spot where he kind of turns things around a little bit. I don't think, just given that he's kind of had a couple down games, that many people will be on him. But outside of that, Tobias Harris, also extremely appealing, 1.24 fantasy points per minute in about 135 minutes with Embiid off this season. He's been fantastic. So lots of places to look on the Philly side.
Yeah, I just kind of like bet it by point per minute here. I've kind of on the lineup HQ, 7.09 fantasy points per minute. I'm sorry, not point per minute, point per dollar. 7 fantasy points per minute. That's like Boban territory. Nobody else does that. So 7 times 4.2 is basically what we're looking at. That's just sort of breaking the slate there as far as Dwight Howard. But your thoughts up next, or I guess third, is Hamidou Diallo. And we know George Hill was out this evening for OKC. Are we assuming he draws the start? Is that the anticipation here?
I don't know if we. I guess we do have him projected to start. Just looking at the minutes breakdown. So yeah, we only have him projected for 25 minutes, but given like what he's been producing at in terms of per minute upside and at 3.9K on DraftKings, I mean, even if he does play 25 minutes, there's still a realistic path to success there. He's got a 35% smash rating for those of you in lineup HQ. So yeah, I mean, I don't have any issues going in that direction. He's had a couple of big games just kind of out of nowhere this season. So wouldn't be shocking to see him kind of put up a big stat line.
I see Harry Giles in the middle of this as well, too. Good fantasy point minute player. A history of leg injuries, despite the fact he's young. And we got him projected for 20 minutes and 21 fantasy points. He is essentially still minimum 3.1K. I don't know how confident I feel in Giles, but I guess if you can make it work, if it makes everything else work, I suppose. Then there's Melo that's popping. Talk to me about Portland without Covington, without McCollum. And, of course, Lillard is the prime spot. And I imagine you think he's one of the guys that's it's justified to spend all the way up for Lillard.
Yeah, he's one of the highest guys in our projections period, especially obviously with McCollum off. And this Cantor's another one who's kind of interesting. I feel like he obviously how he does is going to impact Giles. I mean, if Cantor plays, we figure that those two will eat up all of the center minutes tonight. So, if Cantor, gets in foul trouble or just doesn't play well, or maybe, he's not fitting the matchup for them, we see some extra Giles. I actually am pretty intrigued with Giles as a GPP target, especially, around minimum price. He can certainly produce it, better than a fantasy point per minute. I don't know if I'm going to be heavily invested, but he's definitely someone that I will have in my pool for sure. And, if if the optimizer spits out a little bit more of them than I would have typically wanted, I don't think I'll really fret that much about that. So I do think he's definitely in play.
I don't know. Well, Grant's a little shy, but I'll ask for Grant. How much do you love on a scale of 1 to 10? How much do you love Jeremy Grant this evening?
I mean, I feel like I love Jeremy Grant on almost every slate. I mean, he's just like, there was a point in time where I was just kind of thinking like, oh, this is a fleeting thing, and he's just having a couple of big games, and then he just does it every single game. And especially with no Embiid there, the Sixers are really not the same. You know, no surprise that this one of the best players in the league, not the same team, but also, I mean, you know, Dwight Howard obviously helps defensively, but they're just not the same. I still, you know, at 7.8K on DraftKings, he's probably going to give you 40 fantasy points, upside for a little bit more in a game that should stay pretty competitive. So yeah, I have no issues looking in that direction. Blake Griffin is back tonight, which he sat on Saturday, but that really hasn't impacted Grant that much as it is. So.
You have any thoughts as far as Toronto? Anything else that's kind of worth pointing out? Anything we have our eye on as far as I think at least at this point we have clarity, right, on everything. At least that we know it's out there. I don't think there's much questionables. So we have basically got in or outs. Russell is doubtful. I assume Russell's not going to go. But the Toronto situation, how excited are we with Pascal being out? And anything else kind of you're keeping your eye on?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of weird. We had noted that there's only, I guess, KZ Impala was questionable. I believe he's available to play now. So really the only guy we're waiting on is with the questionable tag is the LeBron, who's questionable every single night. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of nice at this point to feel like we've gotten what we're going to get. On the Toronto side, OG, he had a huge game the other day. He's right back in play again, same matchup. Chris Boucher's minutes have been down a little bit, you know, relative to where they were like a week ago. He's been kind of in that like 22-ish minute range. We have him at 24 in this spot, which is kind of potentially a little bit low with no Siakam, but we'll see, given his fantasy point per minute, you know, potential. Anyway, he doesn't necessarily need a ton of court time to be out there or to, you know, hit value. Norman Powell, we have at 35 minutes, just, you know, a little bit different, who, you know, given at that projection, he's turning into a play about shade under 30 fantasy points. And then, you know, guys like Stanley Johnson, Utah Watanabe, I always struggle with that name, and Terrence Davis, guys that'll kind of eat up the scraps at the end, but aren't really appealing DFS targets.
All right, let's get you out of here. Much appreciate your time. Of course, if anything goofy happens, anything squirrely happens, you'll be all over it as far as the lineup HQ along with the projection team. Well, have yourself a good rest of the evening. Good luck tonight. Much appreciate your time. Grant, let's talk about the ownership projection stuff right now. And let's look at DK specifically because and I'm running 115 optimal lineups just for funsies as well too. But just taking a look here as far as the ownership stuff and pretty clear, makes a ton of sense. Dwight Howard, this is for tournaments, currently 40% projected owned. Diallo at 34. It's another Star Scrubs night tonight where, you know, some of the stars seem a little bit too cheap. And, you know, some of the 3K guys, 4K guys, if they can project you 25 or so, that's what the Optimal is going to spit out at us. Are you locking in? Are we just going to lock in the Howard value, or are you going to besmirch it? What are your thoughts as far as Howard?
I'm locking in the Howard value, but I'm not really using a ton of the 10K guys. It's mostly just Lillard for me. Like, I still have to mess around quite a bit with lineups, but like Tobias Harris, Jeremy Grant, Bam, SGA, Smart, like a lot of the guys in the mid-tier and upper mid-tier are, I feel like, the better plays, and Steph still has a ton of upside at a slightly lower price tag. Lowry should get a bump in usage without Siakam in there and has a little bit of upside. Boucher is a guy that I want to use quite a bit of. So as of right now, like, the cheap guys that I'm using the most of is a little bit of Giles and Boban. A little bit of Diallo. Yeah, he's going up against Joker. Like, obviously, we can never really rely on him too much. He had a decent night the other night, but we never know what his minutes are going to be. But in tournaments, I don't think it's the worst idea in the world. He generally gets a little bit more run. I think the last game versus Denver, he got 16 minutes, which with a lot of people kind of going with Giles, you can go with Boban at $200 more and 1/10 the ownership, maybe less than that, with a possibility of a 30-point game here. Well, Giles is most likely going to give you the most upside at 25, and in all likelihood has a similar floor in a lot of settings as Boban. If Boban gets the minutes, same minutes as Giles, which is a distinct possibility going up against Joker, then he could very easily end up with a much better game.
Yeah, I mean, he crushed last time out in 19 minutes, but he can also, his floor is 0. I was gonna say, you can consider if you want to play a little catch up, you're a little bit behind in tournaments, you could switch off of the guy from Portland. I lost his name for some reason in my head, but Ritza Boban, like you said, people, projection models just can't trust Boban because it's just so hard to assume he's even going to get any minutes. But it does seem like about right. He's going to grab some. Sure, I'm with you. Interesting. By the way, Steph Curry, you mentioned. I think did you mention Curry tonight? This feels like a great spot here against Minnesota. I pulled up the DV. Well, I want to call it DVP stuff. Defense versus archetype against Minnesota. If you're going to call Steph a combo guard, we can call him a combo guard. Sure, why not? It's the 9th best matchup in all basketball here, facing Minnesota. Is this one of the tools you use at RG? It's because it's finally up as far as this year, and the sample's only so big. But it is something I like to lean on or like to break ties and just kind of confirm things I already thought. You mentioned Bam. The matchup against Brooklyn, it's the best matchup in all of basketball for versatile bigs. Absolutely the best matchup. And 8.5K on DK is too cheap, especially when you consider his fantasy points per minute. Because I saw somebody in chat talking about it, and he's more expensive on FanDuel, a little bit trickier to get there. But on DK, 8.5 is a really strong price, especially if you consider, I think it's 1.38 DK fantasy points per minute. That's off the dome, more or less, give or take, with Hero and Butler off the floor. So I think that's a super interesting play. Yeah, so he's not a fully big spend. And also Vukovic is not fully priced. He's a guy that should be at least 9K on DK. FanDuel, he's kind of where he should be. But again, there's an opportunity across the center. We talked about liking Dwight Howard. You can get 2 centers as well. Cantor, I love the matchup, but I just hate that price. On Yahoo, I like Cantor a good bit. He kind of works over there. But yeah, talk to me about Bam. Talk to me about Steph. Talk to me about some big spends besides Lillard.
I mean, again, I'm not spending up huge. Like, I'm not playing Durant. I'm not playing Harden. We already know that. It's Joker, Luka, and Lillard are the main 3 guys. But if you want to go down a little bit, it is a revenge spot for James.
Oh,
it's
LeBron?
in Cleveland.
What's his revenge against? Wait, why does he hate Cleveland? Well, he burned his
not
jerseys.
Revenge. Yeah. It's he crushes when he's in Cleveland. So not the worst idea in the world. But if you're in the 9K range, I'm only going with Curry in that range. In the 8K range, I like Vooch, but I can't really justify going with him over Bam because of the matchup and because I just like Bam a lot better, and I can only run a few centers. I'm using 100% Howard, so I have 1 center spot. So it's really just I can't justify going with Vooch over Bam just because I would much rather have Bam. Like, I know Vooch is going to come in at less ownership, but it's not a ton less. It's 28 compared to 16. So in the 8K range, like, I'm using Bam, I'm using Simmons, and that's really it. Maybe a little bit of SGA just because he makes things work. But yeah, I'm focusing more on the 7K range with Grant, with Lillard, or with Lowry, with Van Vliet, like maybe a little bit of Zion. Like, those are the guys I would much rather go with than.
My issue with Zion is like he finally hit a 3 again. Like, he hit 4 in his premier game ever, and he still only hit, I think, 3 since in the NBA. But then that was his first shot outside of the paint this year that like went in. First shot that went in. And like he's not, he's points and boards. He can put up 35 points and 12 boards, and that's one way to get there. But it's like different route possibilities. Draymond, I think, is a guy, at least I had my eye on earlier today. I'm not sure if he fits the mold right now, but just priced too cheap. Nice matchup, and he's also like it's not taking into account the fact he was kicked out of the game last time for yelling at his own teammate Wiseman. He was having a great game too, a ton of assists. It is tricky to roster a player who like is not good at shooting a basketball in the game of basketball. That's kind of concerning, but he can just compile fantasy points in other ways. And I think this is like a season low as far as the asking price. 5.2 on DK? I want to say it's 4.9 on FanDuel. I like Wiseman as well too, but again, Wiseman's getting squeezed just because of the Howard news. But Naz Reid ain't it. Like, he is just a horrendous defender. This seems like a guy Wiseman can just put so much more athletic than Reid. I like Wiseman, but I don't know how I'm going to get there. The Portland cheapies, like Carmelo is in play. Derrick Jones Jr. is kind of sort of someone in play. They only have, like I say, 10 or 11 bodies this evening. I guess, 10. Lillard's going to play his 38, 39 minutes. By the way, last night, I don't know if you watched that game yesterday, but people are like, well, why did Lillard only play 35 minutes in a close game? It's because he sat. Grant, is there anything more tilting? What's more tilting than watching MADFS? You're watching your player getting ready to check in, right? And he just stands there for 3 straight minutes because there's no whistles.
What's more tilting is when Durant goes into the game, gets a turnover on the first play, and gets injured and goes out for the rest of the game.
Well, I mean, okay, sure. I mean, if you want to get all literal on, you want to get all technical on me, Grant. Yes,
That's happened before. That has
of course.
happened.
Yes, of course. I probably had him that night. I don't know.
I know I had a lot of them that night. I'm still sore about it.
What else is popping here as far as the ownership stuff? Harris. We talked about Harris's bump, and hey, I don't want to say revenge, but he used to play for Detroit, right? Did he used to play for? Is that where my brain's going? I think he used
Detroit
to be a Piston.
to the Clippers to the 76ers.
There you go. Max contract. Wasn't SGA a part of that deal? Good job, Clippers. Wasn't it? Wait, am I?
I don't think so. SGA was part of the next deal over at OKC.
That was the Paul George deal, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and OKC also traded away Sabonis for Paul George. This is Daily Fantasy. Why are we talking about others? This is all matters just tonight.
Well, they traded over Sabonis and Oladipo, which seemed great at the time. Then both of them have been a little bit better than they thought they would be.
Indiana would be nice with SGA. He's kind of sort of popping as well too. Is there a game stack in your future 10 gamer? That OKC Portland one looks pretty interesting. Hill not giving it a go, so guys like Diallo's getting a bit of a bump as well. Roby is still interesting fantasy point minute guy. His minutes are just not quite getting there for whatever reason. They don't want to fully extend him. Horford is still out, obviously. If you are going to game stack, is that one of the places we're looking? Because I think that one's pretty interesting.
All my game stacks are Philly versus Detroit.
That's it.
I mean, you can't go you can go with the Toronto game, especially with Siakam being out. A little bit of a boost to Boucher, who shouldn't come in at high ownership. More of a play over on FanDuel where you don't have to take up that center spot. But Lowry, Van Vliet, and OG are all good plays in this spot. You can do Orlando, like I said. Like Vooch is a good play if you want to pivot off of Howard or pivot off of Bam. Like you can go Vooch, you can go Gordon, bring it back with Hayward is not the worst idea in the world. Miami at Brooklyn's a little bit tough because I don't want to play a single Brooklyn player. Lakers at Cleveland, don't want to play a single Cleveland player. Denver at Dallas, you can make it work with Luka and Jokic, but not terribly easy. I mean, I guess you can throw in Boban a little bit in there, so that offers you a little bit of price savings, but then you've used up your entire center spot. Don't want to stack up New Orleans. Don't want to stack up the Boston game at all. Really, just Marcus Smart that interests me over on the Boston side. I don't trust Tatum with him coming back from COVID and with him.
He's not going to get full minutes, I wouldn't think. And then they talked about this in a previous instance for other players, and they benched their guy. Well, the game was a blowout, but they even talked about it. Stevens talked about it pre-show, saying like, well, these guys haven't done much for a week or 10 days or something like that. So I would imagine, Tatum he can't play, but he also bites off, off of Brown enough where I'm not enthused. But Brown's just been, he's taken the leap, man. He's been awesome so far this year. You can even make the argument he's as good as Tatum at this point. But you're right. Well, let's thin this slate out. Like I'm with you. Let me
just get to the last thing.
OKC I apologize. Go ahead.
OKC Portland is the only other one I'm considering stacking, just because Lillard, you can get some cheapies with Hood and with Giles. You can get Cantor with some big upside, bring it back with SGA, Dort, Diallo, Roby, all guys that you can play, and you can make it work pretty easily.
Oh, I don't know if I finished that thought, but I see Alex in the chat talking about it. Yeah, so Portland and New York, there was not a whistle from like the 7-minute mark in the second quarter till the 3-minute mark. And like there was like 7 dudes or 8 dudes waiting to check in at the 3-minute mark. And Cantor, that's why his minutes got cut a little bit. So that's why Lillard only played 35 minutes because they were just chilling, waiting to come in. And nobody could travel. Nobody could throw the ball out of bounds. Nobody would foul. Come on. I was just a little tilted about kind of watching the game and just seeing my players stand there, watching all these fantasy points accumulate. You want to just bring Devin on? We sometimes we cut him short in his 15 minutes of fame. Let's give him 16. Let's bring Devin on.
Let's do it.
Questions? Devin?
I have been compiling questions. I was
You were not ready.
Not ready.
A minute early. Are you camera ready? Were you combing the hair?
Oh yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm showered. We're all good.
By the way, I want to throw out one sports bet boost. If you guys have Bet Rivers, Levine over 25 plus points and Chicago to cover is for some reason boosted to plus 650, which seems ridiculous.
What is it now? What's plus 650?
Levine 25 plus points and the Bulls to cover.
Huh. Okay. Oh, you as a parlay you're talking.
Yeah, it's essentially the same game parlay, which I think pays out plus 285 over on FanDuel, and they have it boosted to plus 650, which really just does not make any sense. It's clearly something went wrong.
Grant, I got to get on one of these states that have this legalized sports. Can I crash on your couch? You have a couch available by chance?
Yeah, I have an extra bedroom.
Grant, you should just set up a thing where you invite all of your friends to come into the state and you give them a packet on how to turn $200 into $1,000 while you're staying.
Yeah, I've already done that before.
Hey! You have packets available?
It's just I text them an exact thing like do this, and this, and you just made $3,000.
Would I qualify on that friends list? I don't want to be presumptuous.
If you buy me a few gallons of Fireball or a case of wine,
That's a low bar.
Gallons of Fireball?
Yeah, you can get that Firebox as a half gallon for $40.
Do you drink it straight up, rocks? How do you drink your Fireball?
On the rocks. I'm classy.
All right,
Dean, it's a 10 game. I'm a fan of the Fireball, but it gets
keep it on the rails.
Yeah, keep it on the rails. It's a 10 game slate, Dean. Eric,
like and subscribe when we're talking about Fireball. People
there
love
you
that
go.
for sure.
If you are a fan of liquor. Eric Johnson led off the questions here, asking about Tony Bradley for the potential in case Howard gets into foul trouble.
That's our first question, Tony Bradley.
Yeah, that one was at the top.
Grant, that's
no. You're sacrificing a center position. Like, yes, if this were a smaller slate, maybe, but you're sacrificing Giles, you're sacrificing Vooch, Jokic, Cantor. You're sacrificing way too much. Yeah.
Legit wants to know, Teague seems to have value with Kemba and Pritchard out, but his numbers stink. Seems like he should get minutes tonight. Thoughts?
He's cheap, but there's a lot of value that's opened up, so no.
He would have been more interesting a couple hours ago, I think, but now he probably doesn't make sense.
All right, K-Mac wants to know, FanDuel tournament, Vanderbilt or Daniel Tice?
Vanderbilt.
Look at him knowing the names. Devin, you've come so far, man. You've grown up and you've grown up.
I think it's pronounced These Nuts.
No, it's really not.
Sorry, YouTube. Angry Vic leads off here doing a favor for us. A, you're not telling us to hit the like. Only 13. Come on, people. B,
what about that?
Large field DK tournament. I think there was thunder outside. Bradley at 3Ks. There were another Howard question in case he gets handsy. Our other cheap value.
What is our projection?
Let's
for Bradley?
give them
like
a pivot.
Minutes?
If they're on 3K min person, you guys got a pivot for them?
I mean, Grant thought Boban was kind of interesting at 3.
Boban and Giles.
Yeah, Giles is going to play 17 to 22 minutes probably, and he's a fantasy point minute guy. Bradley might play 10 minutes. He might play 16. He's a good fantasy point minute player, but his minutes are much less secure.
John Haggy is talking about Fireball's the reason I got all this taco meat hanging out of the tank top. No, it's Taco Bell is the reason for the taco meat.
Oh, jeez. let's just move on. Eric wants to know. Any love for Sabonis on DK?
I'm fine if I'm bringing it back with a few of the Toronto guys.
Yeah, he's kind of lost in this slate, but yeah. Grant, you answered it, but I think he's perfectly fine, but I'm probably not going to play him. I know that doesn't sound like an endorsement, but yeah.
People love the Dean point of view as well. Herbert, regular friend of the viewers, the chat here. What do you think of what do they think of my boy Vanderbilt FanDuel tournament?
I want him to get minutes. That Minnesota's got a lot of bodies, and they have the most inconsistent rotations in all basketball. They have like 12 dudes they can potentially run out there, and I have no reason why they wouldn't play him. He's their best big. He's a good fantasy point minute player. The matchup is good, but I just can't trust that he's going to close. He may get there. He crushed you all night like in 19 minutes. I'm giving a long thesis on Vanderbilt, but I've thought about him, but I'm probably not going to get there because it's so inconsistent.
Grant, other thoughts?
Yeah, I'm like there's different spots I can go with over on FanDuel, like Boucher, Bam, are guys I would much rather go with.
Stanley Steamer closed the last game for what it's worth, and Boucher's lost minutes for whatever reason. Just kind of note that, but the price has fallen back.
Scaring people away. Scaring people away from Boucher.
Yeah.
Eric wants to know if Ricky Rubio and Cash on DK.
I can't imagine.
No.
Like, I haven't made a lineup yet, but I can't imagine I land on Ricky Rubio for Cash.
Grant, we have a sports betting question from Noeen. Y'all think Raptors are winning tonight?
I bet before Siakam was out, the Pacers -2.5. I can't imagine that line moved in their favor at all. So no, I'm more on the Pacers.
All right, don't forget to hit that like button. Beat wants to know, Grant, do you like the over in Miami Brooklyn?
Miami Brooklyn, it's sitting at 236.
Like big number.
Yeah, it's not small. I don't hate it, but I mean realistically, I'm not a huge fan of it. Like
Besides Bam, do you like the Dragon? You like anybody else on Miami?
I like none.
You still paying for none?
None.
I'm still paying for none. It just keeps paying off.
Still
that's it. Like
praying for none.
I'm still the master of
I
none.
had to go there. Smash that like button for all the puns. Eric wants to know, any love for DeJounte Murray on DK?
His price dropped, and he's coming off a really big game. It is a back-to-back, and historically we know that Pop kind of limited him, but I don't think that's a thing anymore. He's somebody I was more interested in earlier today. I don't know if he necessarily fits my builds, but like as far as just like what his asking price is and what his projection is, perfectly fine. If you land on him, I wouldn't blow things up.
All right, Rob has a 3v3 FanDuel cash. Are you ready, Dean?
Ah, damn it.
Norman Powell, Gordon Hayward, and Zion. Or James Harden, Tobias Harris, and Draymond Green.
Oh, man. So Harden I don't love, but he's like down like it's kind of baked in. He's like 9.8 over on FanDuel, which is the cheapest we've seen in a long time. I know, but like his usage is incredibly low, like 18-19%, which we haven't seen. I'm not helping by answering the question. I think all those players are playable, which is the problem. I like all of them, but I think it's the first one.
Just by a hair, it seems.
And I like Harden specifically more on FanDuel just because of that price. But
right.
again, I'm not seeking it out, but I think he's fine. Big total.
Smash that like button, everybody. K-Town's finest. DK, Vanderbilt, or Roby, if you had to choose.
Roby.
How about that same question, but Giles or Roby?
Roby. For me, I mean, I think Vanderbilt's got a bigger ceiling. I'll say that if they let him go. But Minnesota is just a disaster. It's the worst organization in all of basketball right now. And why would you not want to develop him? I don't know what they're doing, but it's just you can't trust those minutes.
Jason, friend of the show, asks Dean, "Who's your guy?"
Who is my guy this evening? You know who I kind of like, but like
somebody
now,
named Jeremy Grant.
It's not, I mean, Jeremy Grant's fine to me for the record. He's clear. I liked Gordon Hayward a little bit on DK, but it's a 7:00 game, and I don't think I want to lock everything in. I'm stalling now. I like Bam. I like Bam a good bit on DK. I think I'm going to grab him. On FanDuel, less likely to get there. We should mention Nikola Jokic, who's like just the greatest fantasy basketball player of all time. Well, within reason. He's in the Family Feud board, at least for this season. And Lillard. I know Lillard is super chalky, but like Lillard and Curry, this is a game that Curry should absolutely smash in. And we've seen Golden State fall behind a ton, and he's been volatile. We've seen like 30-point games out of Curry. We've seen 70-point games. This one feels like more like a 60-pointer. I think Curry goes nuts tonight. I like that Minnesota Golden State side. I just wish I could peg the Minnesota guys, but the Golden State side, Curry, Wiggins against his former team, sure, why not? Oubre is still a little bit too cheap. He finally figured out how to shoot threes. Like, he's not going to shoot 0 in the season. Wiseman, I already told my issues with Wiseman is that I just I wish he wasn't a center on this slate tonight.
Are you building a lineup for him, Dean? You got like 6 guys.
I mean, I don't want to say Melo because Melo's one of my least favorite players of all time, but like I think he's interesting in this slate. You can't deny it. And Cantor, I just wish that price was different and he was playing on a different night. But Cantor's going to work Roby. Like, that's going to happen.
Nice. Well, that was a very thorough answer. And we got a 60 burger out of Dean for Curry tonight.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
80s Baby asks, smart for FanDuel cash?
I think he was kind of showing up. At least he's somebody that I had in my rankings earlier today. And again, these things do change because
I'm not sure if he's still in there because of the Embiid news. I think Simmons is popping in there now.
Oh, I think no, it's Tamadou Diallo is 4.4K, and I think he's the best dollar for dollar play on FanDuel, and he's actually really playable in DK too, which I think he's 3.9. So yeah, Tamadou Diallo, which we're assuming he's gonna jump in the starting lineup. If nothing else, he should still grab around 25 minutes either way. They do have plenty of bodies there in OKC, but with Hill being out and Horford being out, they are pretty thin. One big, one small.
All right. Casey wants to know Hardaway and Baisley or Seth Curry and Draymond FanDuel tournament.
That's yours.
Probably the first. Like, not a huge fan of either of them, but probably the first.
All right. Eric wants to know, can you play Seth Curry and Steph Curry in the same lineup on DK?
I wouldn't play Seth.
I do believe there are no policy requirements against that. So
yeah.
Just don't put the Martin brothers on Charlotte. That's a terrible idea.
I'm still worried about Curry's what's it called, conditioning.
I wish we had a bonus on the DK sites for putting together real smart lineups like that. Just a Curry stacks.
Hey, everybody's out for the Clippers tomorrow night. I know we don't care about tomorrow night, but you only care about tonight in DFS, but Morris is going to be a thing. We'll be talking about him all tomorrow night. Marcus. Is it Markeith or Marcus? One of
think
the
it's
Morris
Marcus.
brothers.
Marcus.
I forget which one's
Marcus
which.
is for the Clippers. Markeith's for the Lakers.
Yeah, he's going to be like the chalk du jour. But continue, Devin.
Don't you do sports stuff, Dean?
What do you mean? What don't I do?
K-Town's finest. DK, is it a Wiggins revenge game?
He's fine, but like he's what he should be. The price is what it should be. You're not getting a discount, but it's a nice matchup for sure. Wiggins mostly is a points guy, which is somewhat concerning, but he can absolutely put 30 real life points in the bucket. He's fine.
I think he was on
not
the
here to
six-pack
discourage
today.
him. Was he? All right. Shout out beer.
All right. Somebody else asking for oh no, this is a Cantor revenge game. Different revenge. DeMonte asks.
Yeah, I forgot he was on OKC. He's been on a lot of teams. He's not a good
Yeah, that's been a
defensive
while.
player. Yeah, I mean he's probably forgot, but and he has got nothing against Isaiah Roby. He's a rookie, but again, Roby is undersized and he's going to work him. The problem is the position, and also he's 6'6" on DK. Like that feels more like a night slate thing. It's just that's not.
I mean,
price.
it's also not a terrible idea to stick him in your utility spot, and then you can kind of move things around if you need to, because Cantor does have some upside.
Am I hogging the questions?
I just saw that too.
I thought I get the cash ones and he gets the tournament ones. That's just how it works, right? I'm not hogging him. I apologize. How much usage am I getting in the show?
It's if you were on the DVA tool, it'd be green. That's for sure.
Grant's like I don't know, Joe Harris over there, and I'm Harden, I guess. I don't know. Go ahead.
Another one from Donnie asks favorite leverage spot for the slate on DK.
Grant.
Gosh.
There you say Howard fade.
Yeah, I guess that would be it. And going with Vooch or Bam or any of those other really high value guys. I'm just going to check out who's the highest owned. I guess switching out. Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's not really a great leverage spot outside of going, like, Dame's going to be highly owned. So going with Luka or going with Jokic, both of them are going to be drastically lower owned than Dame.
How about Jokic at 7.5% as far as his projected ownership, and Luka at 11.7? Like, we should acknowledge the existence of that game, right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and I mean, it's going to be a good game.
Shout out Jokic and Luka. All right, big gulps, huh?
Rob, if I didn't know this person was in our Discord, I would say this is Grant's burner. Is Jeremy Grant a good play or a great play tonight?
He's the best play on the slate.
Best play on the slate. Can we get a 60 burger out of him tonight?
No.
Oh, yeah. How about that, Dean? Beer bet.
Beer bet.
I don't have any beer in the house.
And you already
What do
shaved
want?
your
Okay,
head.
it's 60. I gave you 60 points. I gave you a 60-point over-under.
Can I have a different kind of bet? I don't know.
I used to
And what
do
am I
water
getting out of
races
you?
with my friends.
If,
when I
You
was
can eat
really
a
young.
pound of yellow cheese, since I know you love yellow cheese.
I would never commit to that.
Oh, that
bet.
sounds so
I would
bad.
go for a
Eat
slice.
3 craft singles.
No. I won't
What
do
would
that.
the over/under be? Like what?
No, it's not happening. I will eat less than a half a craft single.
But
unless
the under on
the stakes are-
0.5.
Yes, smash the under.
When
It's
you order a
information.
burger, do you get no cheese on it?
I mean, it depends. But sometimes some restaurants don't realize they don't carry the optimal cheeses, and you got to make do. You know what
I'm
I
just
mean?
gonna put a bunch
Oh
of
yeah,
cheese
that's
in
why
your
every
background.
There's no
burger has
problem.
cheddar or American cheese
No,
on
it's
it.
because cheddar and American's cheaper, and restaurants are cheap.
All right, we got about a minute left. Michael asks, Damon, Steph in the same lineup. Would you do it?
Sure. Yeah, why not?
Sure. All right. And last one from Julian. What do you guys think of Boban today?
Oh,
Somebody's just tuning in.
I told you,
Grant?
like he could get more run versus Jokic. He has in the past. The last game he got 16 minutes. In 16 minutes he can put up 30 points.
All right, Dean, take us home.
yeah. All right. Yeah, you're going to be doing the crunch time in a few minutes, right? Who's going to be? It's yourself.
That's correct.
No,
Well,
you're
no.
producing.
I'll be behind the scenes. We
Andy
got
Means?
Squirrel Patrol, John Breslin to join Andy Means and Kevin Roth.
That'll be good times. You guys are premium members, of course. You can check that out. And if any news breaks, they'll be all over it and they answer all your questions in the Discord. Join the Discord, by the way, if you guys are premium members. A lot to take advantage of there. Yeah, for some reason, people are just not aware of it. People are talking basketball all day long. It's good times. And after the slate, or as the slate's going on, people are tilting it too, which is a lot of fun because if your player isn't scoring the first 3 minutes, you got to let people know in the Discord that that person is a bust. That's what's going to happen when Jeremy Grant doesn't score in the first 3 minutes tonight. Speaking of Jeremy Grant, that was Grant. That was Devin. I was Dean. Hit the like button. This was basketball. We're out of here. Holla!
See you, kids.